Man, here we are again, guys. Artists on Lockdowns. My name is Von Onesti. I am from the Arcata Theater in St. Charles, Illinois, just outside of Chicago, a place where we host so many rock and roll shows. And I am tonight not just in rock and roll heaven, but drummer heaven. I am surrounded by rock and roll drummer royalty. Of course, Vinny Appice from Dio, Black Sabbath, Carmine Appice, Vanilla Fudge, and Jeff Beck and Rod Stewart, and so many other projects as well. And tonight, we've got with us from Kiss, the Catman, and so much more, Mr. Eric Singer, man. So cool to see you guys here tonight. Hi, guys.
Hi, Ron. How
Hello.
you doing?
Hey, dude, how you doing? Oh, I need some light.
In the dark.
Carmine, you never looked any better.
I need some light. I need some light. Hold on. That's
Instead of
better.
a rainbow in the dark, you're a Carmine in the dark.
Yeah, right.
Hey, that could be a song.
Carmine in the dark. There you go.
That's a great
Yeah,
one.
good voice. Good voice. Good voice there, Eric.
So good to see you guys. And I'm
You know, when you give Carmine's resume, you got to just say, from the alphabet A through Z, Carmine, you play with everybody.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, you know what? You say that, Eric, and you look at the careers of all you guys, and it's unbelievable, really, what you guys have all accomplished. Again, like I opened up the show, I am in rock and roll drummer heaven with you guys here. So thanks for being with us on Artists on Lockdown. Eric, welcome to the show. Again, we've been doing this every week with Carmine and Vinny. But, you know, you're our special guest this week. I understand you just got to Las Vegas. Is that how you're coping with all this crap going on?
Yeah, I did. I'm part of the mass exodus out of California. I've noticed a bunch of other people. I think Vinny's bandmate.
I put the light on. See if that
Yeah.
makes any better.
Phil Susan.
Yeah, Phil Susan. Phil just moved here recently. Bruce Kulick moved here recently, or within the last year or so, year and a half. But a lot of people I know have moved over here. I just think you get there's a lot more bang for your buck. If you don't mind the heat, it's not as bad as people think. Although it's not August yet, but
Yeah.
it's 102 today, 106. But today the humidity's 5% humidity. So
Wow.
it's 102, but it feels like 85 in LA.
So what's it like? I mean, here we are mid-June. What's it like as it pertains to, you know, what's the strip look like? I'm talking about like customers and people on quarantine. I mean, how alive is Vegas? Has it come back at all yet?
Well, I haven't been to. Ironically, I have not even been to the Strip, not even once since I moved here. I'm not a gambler, and I don't care about. I look at myself. I'm a local, so I live in Henderson, which is south and east, and that's where most of the musicians we know, like Brent Fitz, Todd, Bruce, all these guys, they all live in Henderson. Although I think Phil's in Summerlin or somewhere over that way. He's in a different area.
Yeah.
You know, these guys here, the guy to your right and above your head, these legendary performers, which I'm honored to be on this show with, of course. I'm sure there are inspirations. You mentioned how many people, how many projects Carmine has appeared on. Of course, Vinny too. So many projects, and I just thought it was so cool that you list as your inspiration. Sure, guys like the guys on this show, guys like John Bonham, but also, you know,
Carmine, you see this?
Look at that.
Nice.
It's the new. There's the Bonham.
Buddy Rich. Buddy Rich is also. And then that guy, what I wanted to know was, I know your dad, you know, started off. He was a big band performer, right?
Yeah, my dad was a band leader. When he was young, when he was younger, right out of high school, his first band he toured with in the 30s. Because my dad was born in 1909. My dad was a lot older. He toured, the first band he was in was a Freddie Carlone band out of Cleveland, and Perry Como was the singer. And my dad used to go on double dates when they were like in their 20s.
Wow!
And I think my aunt might have, from what my cousin told me, I think his mom, my aunt, might have been with Perry Como, but I can't.
That was really cool. I mean, how about you guys, Carmine, Vinny? Your inspiration from the beginning, were they actual rockers from the 50s, 60s? Did you have any inspiration from the 40s, like the Gene Krupas of the world?
Mine was like Perry Como.
That's funny.
Vinny came up in our era. Like you guys are the same age, I think. You and Vinny.
I think Vinny's a year older. I'm 62. Vinny's like, I think I was born in 58.
Same thing.
Eric, I changed mine to Celsius. I'm 16.
I like it. Well, here's what I do. Whenever I have a birthday from now on, like next year when I'm 63, I tell everybody I'm 50 for the 13th time.
There you go. Yeah, we're about the same age.
My influences were Buddy Rich, Gene Krupa, Joe Morello, and Max Roach. So those are like jazz and big band guys. Unlike these two, they probably listened to like John Bonham and myself and those guys, and maybe some Buddy Rich. I know Vinny loves Buddy Rich, and not so much Krupa, but I was like a total Krupa guy and total Buddy Rich. Every time somebody says, "What's your first album you ever bought?" Expect me to say the Beatles or something. I say Cooper and Rich. That was my first album.
That's why you're a genius, man.
What was your first album, Eric?
I remember buying 45s in the 60s, so I remember buying I bought Honky Tonk Woman.
Wow.
The Rolling Stones, which the B-side was Can't Always Get What You Want. The first albums I remember getting, though, in 6th grade, there was this kid that played bass. He was more into like punk, so I remember he bought me for my birthday Iggy Pop Raw Power and Iggy and the Stooges, and I had MC5 Kick Out the Jams, Steppenwolf. I'm trying to remember what else. But then I think what changed it for me is when I heard, I saw you on TV with Ed Sullivan, with the Beatles and Vanilla Fudge, all that stuff. So that to me was the real influence. Dave Clark 5 with that Red Sparkle Rogers kit.
Right.
Seeing those bands on TV, I think, had the biggest impact.
Yeah, I was definitely the same way.
Totally, that TV was it. Ed Sullivan Show, any variety show, or American Bandstand, and there was another show.
Yeah.
You did it, Carmine, Hullabaloo.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I remember that show.
You actually had Hullabaloo?
Yeah, it was so funny. You keep me hanging on with all the stops, and the chicks are still dancing to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
There was one of those, I think, in Chesterland, Ohio, or somewhere in one of the suburbs of Cleveland. There was a Hullabaloo club.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. I remember that.
I'm sure you played it.
I think we played it. Yeah, I think we did play it.
All the bands that toured would play, because I think when you guys started, they didn't have like big concert venues initially. Right.
That was all like ballrooms and clubs, big clubs, like 1,000 seat clubs. The Fillmore East was only, the Fillmore West was only maybe, I think 1,000 people or 1,100 people, something like that.
So
the Fillmore East was big. The Fillmore East was big. It was a theater. It was like the Arcada,
Yep. Yeah, we had, there's a lot of that going around. We actually had the International Amphitheater back then. I know you played there. I saw you guys there actually later. Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
We played the Kinetic Playground in Chicago.
Kinetic Playground.
Jethro Tull, Led Zeppelin, and Vanilla Fudge. What a great show! I think I told you about the Spitballs.
Carmine, you know your old road manager Paco Zimmer.
Of course.
He told me that you named him Paco after some fisherman. He said you guys went fishing in Mexico, and the fisher guy's name was Paco, and for some reason you started calling him Paco.
Because he looked like Paco. He had the Mexican mustache, and he looked like, "Hey, Paco, what are you doing, Paco?" And we started goofing with it, and He told me when you guys had Zeppelin opening for you that he went to the airport to pick them up, and he remembers their gear coming off the turnstile when they first joined the tour. Yeah. Well, we used to do that. We used to pull the truck. Like when we toured with Hendrix, we had all 3 or 4 bands all in one like 24-foot truck. They used to back the truck right up to the belly of the plane, and we'd pay the sky cap like $100. And he'd load all the stuff. All the Hendrix's amplifiers, everybody's right into the belly of the plane. And then it would all come out on the turnstiles. It was hilarious.
Yeah, that's
a Marshall bottom coming down the turnstile.
He said he remembered Zeppelin's gear coming off the first time they came to America.
Yep.
That's funny.
Bonzo had one of those Ludwig, it was like gray, black kind of pearl. It might have been a Ringo. Might have been a Ringo.
I thought he had Slinger ones originally.
No. Well, maybe they were Slingerland, but I thought they were Ludwig's.
I thought you got the Ludwigs.
Yeah, but I think he had Ludwig.
Okay.
It was a rented kit. It wasn't really their kits, I don't think. And but it was small. It was small, 22 bass drum, and it was like 13 and 13 by 8 rather, and 13 by 9 and 16/16 and a 5-inch snare. And that was it.
Wow.
You guys
I have a question for Vinny. Vinny, when you first joined Black Sabbath, because I saw you when you were playing with Derringer a couple times with Danny Johnson. I remember you opened for Rush, Cleveland Public Hall. I remember. I had front row center seats. I remember I went down to the box office and I literally had the dead center seat front row at Cleveland Public Hall. You guys opened for them. I think it was with Max Webster also, maybe. You remember?
Oh yeah. No. Are you sure it was me?
No,
absolutely.
Oh yeah, it was definitely. It was the original lineup, the first album lineup with you and Kenny Aronson.
Yeah. I don't even remember. I don't remember opening for Rush. That's weird.
My question was, you had the kit with the just 2 concert toms off center.
Yeah.
And then you joined Black Sabbath, and you originally were using that small kit in the very beginning, correct?
Right. Yeah, what happened was I went down and played with Sabbath, and I brought the small kit. They were concert toms, so they don't have bottom heads, which makes them seem even smaller. And I went down to play with Sabbath, and they liked the way I play. They said, all right, you're in. And then Tony said, can you play double bass? The kit's too small. And I went, oh. So I started adding some toms, and then started adding aerial toms. And it was because of that where on the last tour I had like 21-piece drum set, a humongous drum set. But yeah, it looked puny because Tony had 4 stacks and Geezer had 4 stacks. It was this little drum set in the middle,
But
so that's the way that whole thing started.
But the first shows, you only used that like 5-piece kit, correct?
Yeah, because we had rehearsal 4 days, then we flew off to Hawaii to play a big outdoor stadium show. So those were the only drums I had. Then I called Ludwig. I said, dude, I need another floor, another rack, and then give me those aerial toms we were talking about. I don't know where they came from, but then I just started adding them, more cymbals. So it had to look the part,
Yeah, I remember though seeing photos in the magazine when you first were in the band. Well, here's the new drummer, and he had this small kit. It looked kind of funny.
Now I use the same kit. I use 4 toms. That's it, man. I love it. I think it's cool. But we're playing smaller places, so it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, similar setup. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's go to Eric. We got a lot of questions from people, and obviously having you on the show is a real big deal. Obviously, I got a bunch of Kiss questions. Don't want to dominate too much with Kiss, but by the same token, that's a huge, big deal. One of the questions is, what is your relationship now or recently with Peter Criss, in the sense that we know the whole transition was challenging, but we also understand that he's a big fan of yours and the job you're doing with Kiss.
Who's a big fan?
Peter Criss.
Of me?
Yep, it's documented. He said he's documented saying, look, I'm not thrilled with what happened and how it went down, but Eric Singer's doing a great job in my place.
All right, cool. No, as we all know, there's politics in a lot of situations. I stay out of the politics, just like even daily life now. You're not going to win those battles. So, I always looked at it this way. Hey, I just play drums. They needed a drummer. If it wasn't me, it was going to be somebody else. So why not be me? So that's how I look at it. But bottom line is, it's undeniable. Most bands become known for, an original lineup is what creates a chemistry. I'm sure Vinny knows from like that original Dio lineup. As much as they changed some members along the way, but I think the chemistry, is undeniable. Just like Rod Stewart, when he had that Rod Stewart band with Carmine, with Do You Think I'm Sexy, that band had a chemistry and a sound. Same thing with that first Dio. No offense to anybody else, but once you change the other guys, and once Vinny was gone and Vivian Campbell gone and Jimmy Bain or whatever, I mean, even though the guys that come in are all really good, the sound,
it's not the same.
The sound is created by original bands, and I respect that. And I tell people my favorite version of Kiss is the original band because that's what I grew up on.
But why do you think then, and speaking to that, the Catman, Peter Criss, you come in, of course, there's a couple other things that went on, but why do you think they didn't give you a new character? Why do you think they just didn't leave Catman, Peter Criss's Catman, and bring somebody else, create another character?
Well, keep it original. Keep it. They wanted the original look. Gene and Paul. They wanted the original look. I know that.
Well, you have to also think of this now. Some people use the analogy like, oh, the Yankees have different players. It's still the Yankee pinstripes, and you don't change the uniform. Other people are very emotional about this stuff, and I can respect that. But to me, it's not an emotional thing. They tried other characters with Vinnie Vincent and Eric Carr, and I think, remember they took the makeup off for a reason, because it wasn't working anymore.
Yeah,
when they did Creatures of the Night tour, and Vinnie Vincent came in wearing this whatever Egyptian or Ankh warrior, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Paul told me, he said, Eric, when I pull up to the venues, it looked like the place was empty. There was no cars in the parking lot. He said, they in an arena they'd have 2,000 people. He thought, and that was 10 years in. That was their 10th anniversary tour. He goes, I thought it was over. Now here we are, 44 years later. So they made decisions and choices.
I got a funny story. I got a funny story with Paul. When I was hanging out with Paul in '78, when he turned me on to a Coin Management, their management company, I played on his album. We hung out quite a bit. We went to Rod Stewart parties with Paul and all that. So we went to see Angel at the Long Beach Arena, and I had an old Jaguar at the time. We pulled in the backstage, and we're sitting and we had front row seats after going backstage, and we're sitting there hanging. I see all these fans mulling together, pointing to us, and I'm thinking, oh wow, they recognizing Paul, and then they all come up to me and ask me for my autograph, and Paul was right next to me, but nobody knew who he was because he always had the makeup on.
Yeah,
it was hilarious.
Who is somebody? A question for all three of you guys. I mean, there's so many out there now, but who are the drummers today or relative to today that it just gets you guys going, that you really, really love?
That's a good question.
Good question. There's just so many great drummers. I mean, I love Vinnie Colaiuta because I think he's insane. He can play anything, any style of music. He's really like a savant.
But he's not new.
No, he's not new.
He's been around 40 years.
Yeah, you're right. He's been around since.
No, but I'm saying I agree with you, because now there's really no drum heroes anymore, because there's no guitar heroes and no any of those heroes, because there's no albums. Nobody knows who's on what. That's why the problem is, and there's no rock on the radio like it used to be.
How about a Dave Grohl or someone like that?
He's not new.
He's not new either, but Dave was good. I enjoyed Dave.
Yeah,
but even from the freaking '90s, that's what I'm saying. New,
Yeah.
I mean, really, for the last 20 years, it's very rare.
I actually like Taylor Hawkins, the drummer in the Foo Fighters.
Yeah, Taylor Hawkins is great.
Yeah, he's great, and he's not new either.
No, hard question. It's a hard question.
So I think the answer is we don't know. we don't listen to this new stuff.
It's usually youth. And honestly, there's a lot of young kids that are like 8, 10, 12 years old on YouTube. They're just phenomenal, very good. And I'm impressed by those. I mean, you got to remember, we didn't have those kind of tools. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have, you had to listen to a record and try to figure it out. Or you go to a concert and watch the guy play and go, oh, that's how he's doing it. And nowadays, they can go watch any of us online and figure, oh, I see what he's doing. And they learn it instantly.
I mean, like Pete Bigiani from my group Kodiak that I'm managing, co-producing and stuff. He's a great drummer. I mean, he studied. He got great feet. He's got good hands. He's a great drummer, of today. He's 23 years old, and he rocks. You know who else is really good? I can tell you, Max Weinberg's kid, Zach.
Oh, yeah.
Zach Weinberg, he's really good.
And
I mean, if anyone, I would say his kid. Max
it's wild. He filled in for his dad for Bruce Springsteen, but his favorite band was Slipknot. You'd never know that the kid playing with Bruce Springsteen when he was like 17 or 18 filling in ends up with
Slipknot. I know, right?
Crazy.
Because he's got good hands and really fast feet. And so Max turned me on to some videos of his like a couple of weeks ago. And Max lives 10 minutes from where I moved to, and hopefully we'll hang out a little bit. But he's you know, he told me that I influenced him, and it went down the line. He said, I influenced my kid. I said, well, I influenced my kid too, Vinny.
You know, you guys that get
Hey Eric, did you ever want to figure out a drum lick when we were growing up and you played the record on slow?
Yeah, you'd slow it down, or sometimes you take your finger and kind of drag it, slow it down, holding your fingers slightly on the pedal.
Yeah,
slow it down.
yeah.
It out.
Those were the tools we had. Like, what did he play there and put it on 16 and a half?
I never did that. I had to learn real speed.
Yeah.
Well, you were also, don't forget, Carmine, you were writing the parts. You were one of those. You were one of the ground floor guys. So, in all fairness and all respect, you know, I always tell Carmine he's like he's a Gene Krupa of rock. Gene Krupa was a guy that was an originator back into the big band era. You know, Buddy Rich, all those guys. That was their hero. Me growing up, it was Carmine. And you know, like Carmine, like Derek Sherinian always says, Carmine's the last of the great Mohicans. He's, you know, because Ginger Baker and Keith Moon, Bonham,
Mitch Mitchell,
they're all passed on.
Yeah.
And now we lost Neil as well. And I noticed Ron's enjoying this. He's got a big smile on his face.
I love it, man. I tell you, man, I can't believe I'm on with you guys and with Eric to boot. I mean, I'm talking about a cherry on top of a drumstick.
Hey, did you? I'm reading a Rolling Stone book about Charlie Watts, and the guy in there is mentioning "Keep on Knocking" by Little Richard. Did you hear the intro to that?
Oh yeah, it's rock and roll.
It's rock and roll. It's a little different, but it's the coolest groove. Like the way the feel of it.
Keep on knocking.
It's 4 bars, but it seems like it's off at the end, you know.
Yeah. Because he comes in on the end. It starts on the end.
Yeah.
It's
it's so cool.
The actual riff starts on the end, which is why everybody gets it turned around in their head.
Right.
It's really cool.
But this was the original, and it's a little different than what Bonham did, but the definite, that's where he got the idea.
It was definite, without a doubt.
Coolest stuff, man.
I listened to that when I was a kid. Your brother Frank used to buy those records.
Yeah, but that intro is the coolest.
And I listened to that intro, and I copped that intro when I was a kid, you know, because that was one of the only rock things to listen to. There was Teen Beat, Cozy Powell, Cozy Cole, Topsy Part 2, Let There Be Drums, and Wipeout. Those are like the only rock things that were like interesting for a drummer, you know. The rest of the stuff was crap, you know.
Yeah.
I would love to hear you play the opening to Wipeout. That'd be so cool.
All right.
We played it once at our show.
There you go.
It's
love it. So you guys have played on so many projects. Eric, you played over 75 albums. I don't have the time to count the albums and stuff. Carmine, Vinny, you've been on. And it always was a question for me. How do you guys keep track of those things? Do you have all 75 albums somewhere? Where do you guys keep that kind of stuff and keep it straight?
Wow. I saw it. The last time I saw all the albums that I did, it was in Drumhead magazine when me and Vinny were on a cover, and they have the article, and then they list all your albums, and they listed all the albums. I said, wow, I didn't know how I played on that many albums. It was only 50. It was only 50 at the time. Now it might be 60. But Eric, you beat me out. You beat me out.
Yeah, but don't forget, when people are doing Carmine, in all fairness, if you played on one track on an album, they count that.
Right,
Yeah.
So if you're on a compilation album, they count that. You're on
Oh, right. Okay. Well, if you count compilation albums, I'm way up.
They count it as like appearances, if you will.
Yeah.
Right.
Many of them, man.
By the way,
Yeah,
Vinny, you're playing one of my friends I just spoke to, this guy Frank Amato. He's a singer-producer from Cleveland. I guess you're playing on some tracks for some guy that he's producing out of Cleveland. I just spoke to him because they're here in Vegas visiting, so I'm going to meet him for dinner later tonight. But some guy named Joey something, I think you played.
Yeah. Tell him I said hi, and I got a studio in my house. I love, you know, the stuff's right, the music's right, and I record it myself. I'm the engineer. I'm a wireless keyboard, the whole thing, and I get to experiment with all the different mics and Like I just found this this little mic here, the Sony. Look at this thing, stereo, and I plugged it in. I haven't used it in years, and I listened to it. It was sounding incredible. So I'm going to hook it up to my interface, put it probably here on the desk as a room mic, see what it sounds like. Yeah,
Vinny's building me a computer to put in my drum room, which is and we have a guest house here. I got the drums and a gym in there, and that's it. It's like my man cave. And he's building me the computer to hook it up so I can record here as well.
Nice.
Vinny's a computer tech as well, besides being a great drummer.
I'm a Windows guru.
Yeah.
Keep that. How come it takes you so long to get on this program when we start this thing every week?
What was that? I'm sorry.
I said that if you're a guru, how come it takes you so long to get on this program every week?
Well, because we're changing programs all the time. So this is the best program now.
I like this one. This one.
Yeah, this is good.
Ron, you're breaking up. You're breaking up in my
You've been breaking up. We don't know why, but it's probably your internet connections. You're not in your house at the normal place that we normally see you.
It's the speakeasy. You said it last week. I left my house. This is my speakeasy in St. Charles. We're down.
Right.
We're outdoors. But
right. So the internet connection might be a little weird, but this system came from Eric's friend Stefan that I did an interview with, and Derek set me up with it. And then those guys said, "You got to get Eric on." That's why we got Eric here today. And anyway, because of Stefan, we have this new system now. Because we did this system with his, and I said, "Wow, this is so much better than what we're doing."
It really is.
Yeah, and so much easier to hook up. Yeah, you just hook up, you get on.
Eric, I heard about this. What is this about you being a deputized police officer in Texas? How did that all come to be?
I got a bet. You want to see my badge?
Yeah.
Where is it? I'm
going to show it to you. Hold on.
No. What city?
In Texas. I don't know the city.
Oklahoma City?
No, I don't know the city. It's in Texas, though.
Oh, Texas. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, the police are not very well liked right now.
Yeah,
no.
God bless them. God bless our police officers.
That's what I said.
Right.
God bless them. These
too.
people are crazy.
They're walking the world with uniforms on.
That's all because of the news sensationalizing it. They make it worse than it is, and they're destroying the country.
Can you see it?
Hey, all right.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's kind of getting reflection. Hold on.
No, that's cool. We see it.
Yeah, look at, there it is.
Yeah, dude. Wow.
It says Corporal Singer somewhere.
And you're a corporal too?
Yeah.
Wow. How'd you become a corporal so quick?
Honorary. Honestly, you can deputize a police captain or whatever. You can deputize anybody. Tommy Thayer, I think, got deputized as I think as a marshal or one of the in Tennessee or something.
Oh wow!
Tell us about how the gears came about.
That's easy when you're in KISS. See?
Hey, I got one.
You're in KISS?
I got one from South America.
There you go.
Do you really? Is that real?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real.
Doesn't have my name on it. I don't know if it works or anything.
I mean, the way it worked was the one guy.
All I have is my garage door opener here.
There you go. That's all you need. Actually, a friend of mine named Ariel Javier, who's on the police force there in Wharton, which is I think it's about 40 or 50 miles outside of Dallas or Houston. Try to remember. I think it's Houston. So, anyways, I'm into wrist watches, and this guy's I
forgot. Yeah, that's right.
He's a moderator on one of these watch sites, and I became friends with him that way. And when we played there, he knew I was, he knows everyone in our band's always been very supportive of the military and police and all that stuff. We've always just, civil servants. We're very supportive of that and those causes and charities for that type of stuff. Tommy Thayer, our guitar player, his dad was a brigadier general in the in the military, in the Army. So we do a lot of stuff because of that.
I collected some watches from back in the 80s, and I still found my Derringer first LED about 1976.
Really?
You know, red. Yeah, I put a new battery in, and it worked a bit. Then it went all nuts. You know, but I had some original Japan watches, Solar, one of the first Solar watches. Yeah, I used to collect them all, buy them.
How many do you have now, Eric? I know you've been collecting for a long time. How many do you have now?
I've never counted, but I know it's probably close to 300 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
He really collects watches.
But that's nothing. I mean, Alice Cooper has about 500. He's always been really into it.
Really? Wow.
Hey, Eric, what time is it? I don't know.
It's 4:30. I looked at the computer, 4:31 and 51.
I noticed you're not wearing one.
Hey, Vinny, I have a question for you. Did Carmine have anything to do with you meeting Rick Derringer and getting in Derringer, or how'd that happen?
The way that happened was the band I was with in Brooklyn when I was 16, it was a 4-horn player band, you know, really good band. And we got managed by the Record Plant Studios in New York City. Jimmy Iovine was our producer. He was a good friend. So he brought us in there, and we used to rehearse there all the time. We had our own room. It was the coolest thing. And in there, we met John Lennon, and we wound up doing some stuff with him. And then we did demos, and Rick was there one day, and he heard the demo. And he asked Jimmy, who is that? And they said, that's Carmine's brother, Vinny, playing drums in his band. He goes, wow. Then I met up with him, and he said, give me a number. I'm going to be putting a band together. I went, yeah, here's my number. So it was, you know, it was a great place to network. It's a great place to network when we met Aerosmith there, Jay Giles' band, everybody recorded there. So it was cool.
And when he called up for Vinny, he called the house. Vinny still lived at home.
My mother's house.
My mother answered the phone, and she goes, hi, Mrs. Appice. This is Rick Derringer. I'd like to talk to Vinny. So my mother says, oh, no, you want to talk to Carmine? So,
Really?
Yeah. So he goes, no, I want to talk to Vinny. And she kept thinking that he was calling to me, but asking for the wrong guy. And then finally, she couldn't believe that, you know, you got Rick Derringer at the time, who was big, was calling for Vinny, like Vinny was still in high school, you know, and it was pretty funny. She told me that. I laughed, you know.
That's great. No, I was wondering. I thought maybe that you knew him and you said, hey, why don't you get my brother to play? I always wondered how it happened.
Well, I did know him, but I didn't ask him to bring Vinny in, you know. Like
Actually, Carmine never really helped me get in these bands. You know, it was all.
It was always just Carmine's brother.
I was Carmine's brother.
That might have helped a little, but I never physically called anybody and said, hey, take my brother in. You know?
I was Carmine's brother till I got older and better and kicked his ass.
Yeah.
Well, you can see when you guys do your Drum Wars show, again, as I say every week, one of my favorite shows live we have by my theater here, seeing you guys up against each other, almost trying to one-up each other. I don't know how choreographed or scripted that is, but that's the funnest part of watching you butt heads.
It's a lot of freedom, because sometimes we'll end the song and then Vinny will look at me and take a 4, and like it's basically he's telling me, let's do some 4s, and we would do them, and then we'd end the song again, you know. But it's really a lot of fun. You never saw it, Eric? Did you ever see it?
No.
See, that's our new drum sets there. See our new drum sets?
Oh, that's great.
It's in the trunk.
It is a small kid.
It fits in a mini car.
Is that from New York?
The drum kits was a theater in Connecticut.
That was a benefit show.
Yeah.
But you guys together, when you're on that tour, it's not really a tour because I know you do a lot of one-offs and that kind of thing. But are you guys literally? How much of that is scripted, and how much of that is that you're just kind of making it happen, trying to one-up each other?
It's probably 70% scripted, and then, you know, whatever happens. You know, I try to make something happen if nothing happened by throwing some loops in there. You know.
Yeah.
And making it happen.
What
happened to the questions? What happened to the questions from the viewers?
So I got a couple here. What do you think about, what's his name, Romero and the New Rainbow? I guess this is for you, Vinny. He's a vocalist.
Who?
His name is Romero. He is in the New Rainbow. And they'd like to know what your opinion is of him. One of our customers here looking for questions.
I'm sorry, that doesn't ring a bell of who he is.
Okay. All right, we got another.
I know it is. Richie Blackmore in the last year or two put a new version of Rainbow together, and that singer that he's asking you about.
Yes.
But
I never heard him.
I never heard him either.
That's the answer to the question. But for Eric, I mean,
Sorry.
how real is this whole? This is the last hurrah for Kiss. How real is that? You think?
I believe it's real. I think you got to remember, Gene will be 71 in August.
He's really.
Now, what 71-year-old guy? Think about when you were a kid. That would be your grandfather. That's putting on that costume, breathing fire. And spitting blood and flying up in the air. I mean, now people probably spit up blood for other reasons, but the point is, he's, the fact that he still does it is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'm 73, and I totally get it. I mean, it's like I get off my drums now after a drum solo. My heart's like at 130, beats per second, and I'm like a minute, and I'm like, almost dizzy. You know what I'm saying? So it's got to be hard to just walk around in those boots.
Yeah.
When you're that age, because it's hard enough to walk around in comfortable shoes.
Sandals.
There you go.
Nice.
Yeah. I got Skechers. All my shoes are Skechers now. They're so comfortable. They're much better. We just took a walk around, about a mile walk around the circle here where we live with the dog, and I couldn't do it in any other shoes. I tell you the truth.
I'm right there. I finally said, I have to relent and wear New Balance shoes, and they're made for walking. And it's ironic. When I first met Tony Iommi, as Vinny knows, Tony Iommi always likes to go walking after he eats dinner, right? Always goes for long walks. And he was the one that I remember. I met him in 1984. Late 84, early 85. And I remember he always wore New Balance. Unless he went out, he wore pointed, Cuban heel boots going to a club. But during the day, and he'd go walking in these New Balance sneakers. And he was very religious about doing that every day. He and Jeff Nichols, they always would go walking, I remember. And so, they're not exactly the most fashionable looking type of shoes, but they're intended to be for walking. And the point is, I finally said, okay, I'm old. I got to wear them because it helps. It really makes a difference.
Well, Eric, Alice Cooper is 72, 73 years old. He's still rocking and rolling, having a great time. But let me ask you now, you're obviously got some experience at the time when you got into Kiss. Your first big thing basically was Lita Ford, Alice Cooper, all this great stuff that you have. But how was it when you first got that call that you got the gig in Kiss, one of the biggest bands in the world? How big of a thrill was that for you?
Well, I had done Paul Stanley's solo tour in 1989, so that's how I met him. I was actually in New York recording a record with this band called Badlands, and one of the guys that we were managed by Paul O'Neill, who managed Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and one of the guys that he represented, this guy Dennis St. John, this bass player, he just said he asked Paul O'Neill, "Hey, what's Eric doing? Because Paul Stanley needs a drummer." And he said, "Oh, he's done with this record. He's just going home. He's got to sit around for a few months." So he told Paul about me, and I went over to the KISS office, which they were living in New York at the time, and I just met with him. And then that night, we were at the record plant in New York, and I was flying home to L.A. the next morning, and Jason Flom was our A&R guy. And Jason Flom came in and said, "Hey, Eric, I just saw Paul Stanley at the China Club. He told me you're playing drums in his solo tour." I'm like, "Really?" I didn't even So that's how I met Paul. And then after that, Paul was moved to LA, and sometimes they asked me to play on demos, KISS demos, because Eric Carr didn't live in LA. By this point, in '89, Paul and Gene and Bruce Kulick were all living in LA. So when they would do demos, they'd all do them like kind of separately, and they'd go and just like, have their friends and say, hey, like Tommy Thayer was playing on demos for Gene and Paul back then as well. And so Paul asked me to come in and play on a bunch of demos for Hot in the Shade album, but I didn't play on the record, just demos. And so, I kind of developed a relationship that way. And so when Eric Carr got ill, when they went to do the Revenge album, Paul called me up again and said, hey, Eric's sick. Can you come in and play on some stuff for a record. And so then he passed away, unfortunately, and then it kind of just it happened to be the right place, right time.
How much did you have to deal with Doc McGee at the time?
Doc was not the manager at that time.
No, he wasn't the manager. Yeah, it was
Larry Mazer.
Bill Coyne. Was it
No,
Bill
Larry
Coyne?
Mazer. No, Larry Mazer.
Mazer. Oh, I didn't know Larry had managed him.
Larry was managing the band, and then after that, then there was no manager for a while, and then they didn't get Doc until they did the reunion in '96.
I know
98.
He's really bringing them back into you talked about earlier when they were doing some touring and the arenas were not getting filled up. I guess he's credited with really not only bringing them back with that reunion, but also getting them over 2,000, 2,500 those promotional deals with with the logos and the dolls and just all the merchandising.
Oh, they went crazy. They went crazy. They went crazy with it all again.
That's when they brought Paco in. At that point.
Yeah, Paco came in to be the accountant. Well, Paco had been one of Doc's guys with Bon Jovi, Scorpions.
Right, exactly, yeah.
He's one of Doc's guys, Yeah. But I think Paco's kind of retired pretty much now.
He's retired. Yeah, I talked to him a couple of weeks ago. He's retired. He just got over having some sickness. Maybe he's okay.
Yeah. I love Paco. He's funny. Those years, if you talk about merchandising, the essence and the science and the art of merchandising, band merchandising, you got Doc, you got Kiss. I mean, there was no band like it.
Yeah, but originally it started with a Coyne. Coyne's a guy that really, he was a master of press. He was a master at merchandise, and those guys, they were the first band to really, since the Beatles, right, to go merchandise crazy, Yep.
A lot of people don't realize I was going to say, a lot of people don't realize the Beatles had a lot of toys and merchandise back in the 60s, but they weren't really big on it, and they didn't promote it. But anyone that might remember, probably maybe 10 or 15 years ago or something, at the Hard Rock Hotel in Las Vegas, they used to have some display cases, and they had all the Beatles toys. There was like a toy plastic Ringo Starr drum. They had comb and a hairbrush and a mirror, talcum powder. They had, the Beatles had it all. They had all that stuff before Kiss.
And Elvis too, another one.
But rock bands like Vanilla Fudge, Cactus, BBA, there were no merchandise. We never sold merchandise.
T-shirts.
I remember no T-shirts, nothing. I remember being on tour with Jeff Beck and BBA, and I just released my drum book, and I said, let's sell the drum book at the gigs, and we sold some of them at the gigs. We carried them around and sold them at the gigs.
Oh, that's great.
And that was like unbelievable. Wow, we sold my drum books at a gig, but then not until I was in Rod Stewart, which was like 3 or 4 years later, then everybody was doing merchandise then, and then I think Alice Cooper jumped on it after Kiss got big with it. And then there was only a few people that were doing it. And now, it's a staple. Everybody has to do it. But those hold on, Eric, those meet and greets that everybody did with this pandemic, those are all gone now. Forget about it. Even when the gigs come back, it's going to be really weird.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be interesting to see how people deal with all that going forward.
Yeah,
believe me, very interesting. I stay up awake every night thinking about it, how it's going to happen, how it's going to work.
Yeah.
Eric, it's a question I ask everybody. It's a personal question. For me personally, it's a curiosity. I've asked these guys before. You got this great career. You've met so many kings and queens and princesses and princes of rock and roll and humanity. What is something that you have that is your most favorite, most valuable, most treasured piece of memorabilia or a gift or something that you, if the place has got been on fire right now, you would grab before you ran out of your house?
Oh, I don't know about memorabilia. I probably want like my dad's watch, because
watch.
Well, I had an older brother, but he passed away in 1994. So, the oldest son usually gets the father's watch and that kind of a thing, old tradition. But my brother, before he passed away, I remember I was visiting. He lived in New York, and I was visiting him. And he said, "Here, you want this?" And he gave me the watch, and because he goes, "I don't really ever wear it," and so was ironically, I ended up with the watch, and he passed away shortly after. So I'm glad that otherwise it would have probably gotten stolen or who knows what would have happened. So that's
Right.
a fundamental, connection thing.
So not
Cool.
only it's
That's
a
great.
gift from your father, but it's a gift from your brother as well. Double
Yeah,
meaning.
basically. I mean, I have my dad's violin. I have his saxophones because he played saxophone and violin. He was a band leader. So I have his instruments. So those are kind of
Really?
cool. Yeah.
My grandfather was
That's cool.
a virtuoso in the mandolin. There's actually a school in Italy, in Florence, named after him. But I've got his baton from 1910. I'm so excited about,
Oh, his conductor's baton?
Yeah, he was a conductor,
Oh,
yeah.
nice, nice.
Carmine and Vinny, did your father play music? Was your dad a musician?
Nope. Not at all.
No, yeah, he played saxophone,
Oh, he did?
but he was awful.
Yeah, he wasn't a musician.
What
He
about
told
you?
me, now my older brother was a doo-wop singer, and he started playing guitar, just taking lessons, which he showed me when I picked it up quicker than he did. And then he stopped playing and stopped singing. And he became the world famous spice salesman.
That's
He would
awesome.
sell spices to like Costco by the dump truck,
Yeah.
by the truckload and stuff like that. But when Vinny was growing up, Vinny could tell you he was like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years old. We used to have like doo-wop group rehearsals in the living room, and I would have band rehearsals in the living room. And he was running around as a little kid, being exposed to all this stuff. So my mother was always singing, and she'd be washing dishes, the radio on, singing all the time, right, Vin? She'd always be singing along.
No,
So
so
it's
I
always
think-
music.
Vinny,
Yes,
do
yeah,
you
now.
sing? Do you sing, Vinny?
I sang a little bit on some of the records, backgrounds, but I didn't really
Because
get into it.
Carmine's really got a great voice. I always told Gina Paul, you should have got Carmine to be the drummer to replace Peter back then. Because
I agree.
I'm serious, you would have been perfect because you
I
sang.
know.
Because you
I
sang.
know.
You
And I
had
talked to Paul, and they said they wanted to get somebody without a name. That was
No,
the
he said
answer.
without a name on his bass drum.
Did he say that?
That's a big deal.
No. But yeah, I agree. But you sing really great, man. I saw you guys. I don't know when I saw you when I came to see Kiss, and you sang Beth. I was blown away. I said, "My God!" And you played piano. I said,
Great
"Whoa!"
job.
I didn't know you played piano, and your voice is
I didn't know
awesome.
either.
Just like Peter. Yeah, Peter. I didn't know he had a great voice. He has a great voice.
He's got that cool whiskey. That's the tone. He's got the cool
Yeah,
tone.
there's the tone. Like my voice is now. I have something on my vocal cord, some mucus that won't leave. I have a very gritty voice when I sing now, but I lost my top end. My highs, which I don't like. But like when I do it fudge, I sing "People Get Ready." I have to watch where I go. Where I normally would go, I'll crack if I do that with this crap on my voice. But I like the way it sounds now. I sound like the Godfather.
Yeah, I don't think you are. You're the
A lot
guy.
of people don't realize that. I don't think a lot of people realize how good Carmine sings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Really
Oh,
great.
I love it.
I've said it to Gina Paul a bunch of times. I said, you should have got Carmine to be the drummer back then.
Yeah, I did talk to Paul about it back then because I was managed by a coin, and I talked to a coin as well, and they said, well, we want to get a new guy, a new look. They got Eric with the new facial thing. So my question to you, Eric, right now is, do you have to shave to put the makeup on?
Oh yeah, of course. But
That's
whenever
what I
we're on tour, I always grow facial hair.
Yeah.
So speaking of that,
do you know that when they audition drummers, I think it came down to Bobby Rondinelli and Eric Carr.
Yeah, well,
really?
Bobby was one of my students.
Yes. Bobby was one of the ones that they were undecided between, but I think because Eric could sing.
Yeah,
I'm
that makes a difference. It makes a difference, yeah.
I don't think Bobby sang. And
No, he didn't sing, no.
I think Paul said if Bobby would have been able to sing, he would have probably gotten the gig.
Yeah.
He told
Well,
me
that's
that.
it. And Bobby was one of my students. He played like me, so he should have got me.
I know.
But speaking about getting, we never mentioned the fact that you were discovered, Eric, and I distinctly remember you at the Carmine Appice Drum Off 1984 when Lita was there, and that's where she saw you.
Well, actually, the way it happened was this girl named Brenda Holiday. She was a penthouse pet, and they were doing these videos for Playboy called "Women in Rock," and Cheryl Rickson, who was Penthouse Pet of the Year, and a bunch of Playboy girls were all doing these videos. Matt Sorum was in one of them, I remember.
Right.
A bunch of other guys that ended up in bands. So some girl, she called me up and she goes, I got your number from Carmine. I saw you at the drum off last night, and Carmine gave me your number. I'm doing this video. Will you be in the video? And I said, okay, cool. So she hired the guitar player from Steeler, the guy that replaced Yngwie, this guy named Kurt James, and this bass player from New York named Ray Marzano. So we rehearsed at this rehearsal place in North Hollywood called the Rock House. Black Sabbath used to rehearse there. Did you know that, Vinny, that place?
No, what was it called?
The Rock House. And it was back in an industrial area off of Vineland. So the bass player owned that place. And when I went there, we went there to rehearse to learn the song. And he said to me, hey, Lita needs a drummer. Randy Castillo quit. She doesn't know it yet. But she's coming back from she's over in England with Tony Iommi. She's engaged to him. And she's coming back. And so when Lita came back, she did a cattle call. I auditioned and I got the gig. And then 6 weeks later, we're opening for Rat at Long Beach Arena on New Year's, and Rat had just went to their full big stage playing arenas, and Carmine's there with one of his wives. I remember it was Angela. He had a long fur coat. I'll never forget this. And I walk up to Carmine. I go, hey, Carmine. He goes, hey, man, how you doing? What are you doing there? I go, I'm playing with Lita tonight. And you go, oh, and I'll never forget. You go, oh, that's awesome. And you go, no, Eric, that's so cool. You go, that's what it's all about. That's why those drum offs. This is what's supposed to happen. It's so people can get a break. Somebody could, and I got discovered at Carmine's drum contest. That was 6 weeks after the contest. I'm playing Long Beach Arena.
See, that's where your influence, Carmine. Your influence.
Oh yeah, I said thank you to Carmine always.
Yeah, that's awesome. Lita always told me, she goes, I found through your drum off, I found Eric. You know, and
it's true. That's how I got discovered. And I remember it was very intimidating. Carmine, you did it at the Palace, and you got up and jammed with Jakey Lee and Phil Chen.
We did Bo Diddley.
Pardon me?
We did Bo Diddley.
Oh, I didn't remember what you played. I just remember you jammed, and then the judges. I'll never forget. I was very intimidated. That you had two kits, a single bass kit and a double bass kit. So if you for those that play double bass. And the guy that won it that night was Sal Rodriguez, who plays with War. He still plays with War.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
the guy that won the big one that had Buddy Rich, his Sonny Emery. He played with Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah.
You know?
And Jean-Luc Ponty.
And Jean-Luc Ponty. Yeah. He's awesome. He's like a monster player.
Oh yeah, monster. And so I'll never forget. I'm playing Carmine, and I remember the judges were like Bruce Gary. And I'll never forget, I'm playing and like sitting right 6 feet away from me, right next to me is Steve Smith. So that's pretty intimidating. It was. And but it was a great experience, and that was a cool thing. And I remember the best story about it though, Carmine, you sent a tape into KNAC, I think it was, or KLOS.
Right, yeah, KLOS.
Cassette tape. And from that they picked I think 35 guys and 15 girls. And girls and boys category. So they did it at the parking lot in the old Guitar Center in Sherman Oaks.
Right. That was the semifinals.
Semifinal.
And that's where Steve Adler was there.
But that's why I want to tell the story. So you had Miley Glaubacher was a judge. I think Mark Craney. Yeah. These were the judges. So Carmine said to everybody, if you like somebody, audience participation is part of it. You like somebody, you got to, make it known. Don't be shy and all that. Well, Stephen brought all of his family and all of his friends, and they're all cheering for him. Well, Stephen didn't make the finals. And so he's crying. I'll never forget this. I'm standing right next to Carmine on the sidewalk on Ventura Boulevard, and Stephen's crying, and Stephen's mother's coming up, and she's kind of not really berating Carmine, but she's saying, how come my friend Stephen didn't win? He's not included. All these people were cheering for him. The crowd loved him, and Carmine's trying to be very gracious. He goes, well, that's just one aspect of it. That's part of it, and blah, blah, blah. So this is 1984. 3 years later, guy's in one of the biggest bands in the world.
I know. And he was with Slash that day.
Yes.
Slash was there too.
That was wild.
I remember that day because I called him Stephen Alder because it was spelled wrong on my list. It was like ALLDER. So I said Stephen Alder. And they said, no, it's Adler. I said, oh, you know, it was misspelled. So I remembered that. And then Stephen told me that himself, that you know, I mispronounced his name and he was at that drum off, but he didn't tell me about the crying. You told me about the crying.
I remember he was all upset and crying. He was bawling his eyes out, and his mom's like, you know, the Jewish mother. Why isn't my son in there? You know, it was great.
You had
fun days.
Roses.
Those were the days.
Yeah, those are the fun days.
How about the days coming up, Eric? We got to be winding down here in just a minute. But you know, besides what's on the horizon, besides, you know, obviously the KISS train that you're on, obviously. But any ideas or any concepts of going or thoughts of going back to some ESP stuff with our buddy Johnny Karabi or any of that kind of thing going on?
No, I mean, I haven't done that in a long time because we would just do that for fun, and we'd go play in Europe, or we went to Australia before as well. Europe a couple of times, because over there, for some reason, you can go over there and do those kind of things and actually make money. In America, it's very difficult. The market's just not the same. Over there, people have always been, I feel, more appreciative and of just music and the arts. Kids are brought up in school to appreciate, you know, classical music, dance, theater, all that kind of stuff. They don't do that in America. We have no culture. We have no culture here in that regard.
Vinny, how about you? What do you got coming up on the horizon that we should be looking for? I know you're working on some new music, some old stuff. What's happening on the horizon for you?
Well, we're working on the third Last in Line album, and gigs is pushed back till end of November, December. And I'm supposed to go to Europe in September to do this Black Sabbath tour that I do. It's just me and a really good band, and we play all the Sabbath songs that I'm on and some of the old stuff. It's done really well in the past, so I'm supposed to go there in September.
Who's the singer?
It's a singer from Italy. The whole band's from Italy, and it's really good.
Over here, cousin.
I've done them here too. I've done them in Ohio 3 times already, and it's done really well. You know, we play all the Mob Rules stuff and Heaven and Hell, which I didn't play on, but The Humanizer, all that stuff, and then the classics, a couple of Dio songs, and it works good. And then I'm supposed to go to South America again, so we'll see if it holds up. You know, if they're ready. If not, it'll be next year.
Looking forward to having you back here with Last in Line. That's for sure, man.
Yeah. Vinny, I got to ask you: have you or Carmine? Have you heard that singer, that kid Dino Jalusic?
No.
You should go check him out. That kid can sing. He can. I'm telling you, he does Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Yeah.
His name is Dino Jalusic, Jeluisic. Go check him out. This kid is a great. I'm telling you, there ain't many good singers that come along once in a while like that. This kid can sing. He can sing that Dio stuff, all that Mob Rules and Heaven and Hell era stuff.
Yeah. Oh,
he does a cover of a Badlands song, and he can nail the Ray Gillen shit, which Ray had like a super high range.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this kid, Vinny,
check him out.
You will love him. I'm telling you, this kid's good.
Wow. Okay. I'll check him out. Yeah.
He's perfect for anyone that's doing that style of music. This guy's perfect, and he looks great too.
Cool. Dino, right?
Dino Jalusic with a J.
Jalusic.
Carmine, I know you got a bunch of things going on, of course. Always producing, always working on it. You're working on Cactus. What else we got coming up?
Well, it's pretty much the Cactus album, and we have a new deal for Vanilla Fudge, but the pandemic screwed it all up. So we're waiting for that to end so we can start recording. And pretty much that's it. You know, I was doing my Rod Experience show, which is like what Vinny does at Sabbath. I do all the great Rod songs that we used to play with Rod when he used to really rock. And we had some of those shows booked by Steve Love that put this thing together that we're doing today. And so who knows? But
Who's
luckily,
the singer?
This guy's name is Rick St. James. And I talked to another guy yesterday. Yeah, I don't know if you remember Paul Warren. Eric played Paul Warren and Explorers in the 80s. He played with Rod for 14 years. He played with a lot of different people. So I have him in the group, and now he had some other guy that does a Rod show call me yesterday and want us to play with him in his rod show. So we'll see what happens, you know. But, you know, for me, at my age, I just want to get out and play. It doesn't really matter, you know, whatever it is, if it's heavy, if it's rock, if it's, you know, anything but ballads, right, Vinny?
Yeah, no love songs, no unplugged shit, no ballads.
There you go.
And
I used to have that on my. I used to have that on my first website. It said Vinny Appice, the loudest drummer in rock, and then I'd put no love songs, no unplugged shit, no problem. And Carmine would say,
no gigs.
Yeah.
On your gravestone, Vinny. We got to thank you guys very much. All of us have to thank Steve Love, of course, Ben Wheeler, our producer.
Yeah.
He's been working really hard making it happen. Ben, thank you so much. You're doing such a great job for us. I'm lucky enough to be with these legends, Carmine Appice, Vinny Appice, and our special guest tonight, Eric Singer. Thanks for joining us. Really.
Hey, you got to thank Stefan. You got to thank Stefan for that. What's the name of his show, Eric?
Yeah, it's Stefan Adika. It's Coffee Talk. Coffee Talk on YouTube. There's a channel, Coffee Talk with Stefan. And
Coffee Talk.
Coffee Talk.
Because he's the guy that turned us on to this program that really works so much easier, right? Everyone.
Yeah, yes. But Coffee Talk's on.
Here we are.
He's on Monday through Friday, 8 to about 10 in the morning, West Coast time, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, Vinny's going to do his show next.
Everybody who's watching, everybody's enjoying this. You should like it, share it, tell your friends. We want to get this out here because we're doing this every week. We're doing it with Carmine. We're doing it with Vinny. I'm honored to be with these guys. I'm Ron Onesti. Once again, Eric, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Appreciate
it.
I'll call you, Eric.
Check out that guy Dino, Vinny. You're gonna like
will. And I might see you in Vegas soon. I might move too.
I'm here. Okay, look me up. I'll see you guys. Have a nice weekend.
Okay, you too. Bye, guys. Bye, everybody listening.
Bye, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye.
Are you backstage now or we're off? We're off?